let's talk about some of the biggest milestones for what you do at the Vincent Financial Group. Obviously, creating retirement plans and, make sure people have, all the assets they need for retirement. But there's a lot of milestones involved with that we're going to go through as adults. So talk to me about some of them and some of the big age milestones that we're going to experience.
Maybe we'll run through several of the big ones up front and then go back and kind of hammer them home. How's that sound?
Perfect. Sounds good.
So we've got, age 50 is a big age, 55, 62 is another one, 65, 70, 73. There's a bunch of ages in there that, some key things happen.
Yeah, they usually correlate to decisions have to be made on or around those ages. And if you don't get them right, they've got some pretty big ripple effects. And so talking about those before they're upon you is kind of the name of the game here.
Yeah,
Okay.
so if you're 50s to 70s, I mean, there's going to be an age in here. There's going to be an age in here for you where it's going to resonate.
Yeah.
So where do we start with a milestone age?
Let's just start at the beginning.
50.
50.
What's 50?
Yeah, so at 50, that's the first opportunity that someone's going to have to make what's called a catch-up contribution, not the condiment, but catch-up to their 401k.
Yep.
Or their IRA.
IRA, yeah.
And so essentially it's the first opportunity you have to put in a little bit extra into those retirement plans in order to kind of help those that are maybe finding themselves behind on their savings. You can put in extra dollars into your IRA, 401k, really any qualified plan.
Yeah, the rules of the government exist to where, even if you are contributing to one of these accounts, they limit what you can put in each year. But when you get to the age of 50, that limit increases. So if you want to put more in, all the rules you played by for the past 10, 15, 20, whatever years, they've now changed. You actually can make a catch-up contribution.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And then the question becomes, is that something you should even do?
Right.
And that's what we help people with all the time.
Do you find that the 50-year-olds, because I know, we talk to an audience of, adults 60, 65, really getting serious about their retirement. Do you find that the 50-year-olds are properly prepared for this milestone age, are properly prepared to take that next step?
I think a lot of them, at least in my experience, the conversations that I have, 50 is one of those ages that isn't on the map. There are some of these that are obvious. 59 and a half, we'll get to that one in a minute.
Yep.
62, 65, some of these more obvious ones that most people are really aware of. 50 is one of those ones. I think it's why it's on our list that most
Sneaks
people
under the radar.
Yeah, you wouldn't. I mean, if you ask somebody, hey, list out the ages of milestones for retirement, very few would say 50. So I would say no, most aren't aware of this one.
Yeah. I think most people don't really get super serious. Certainly there's a lot of people that are serious about their savings and their finances, even in their early 40s and 30s. But I think when you think about retirement specifically, I do think that 50 can kind of slip under the radar.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you've said it before, most of the 50-year-olds were still in that accumulation phase.
That's right.
As well. So you're just trying to build up to start preparing for that next
That's exactly
next
right.
step. All right, so what's the next milestone age?
Let's hit 55.
Yeah, 55 is a big one. Also often under the radar.
Yep.
It's not one of those big ones that we hit. So 55 is one where if you are contributing to your employer's 401k, right? You've got this 401k, you're adding to it each month. Hopefully they're matching it, et cetera, et cetera. It's what most folks, what the majority of their retirement assets are in. At 55, you've got some new options you didn't have before.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this actually does kind of come down to each plan in particular.
It's true.
Some plans are going to allow you to withdraw penalty-free dollars from your 401k while you're still working at the company, actually.
Yep.
But then if you separate from service, so this would apply to anybody that leaves their employer at age 55, you have access to those 401k funds penalty-free. You still have to pay taxes, of course,
right.
But you do at least have to, you don't have to wait until 59 and a half, which that's the number, the age that most people think of when they think of penalty-free withdrawals or access to their retirement accounts. Typically, people are thinking 59 and a half, but if you separate from service or if your plan sponsor allows, you can take penalty-free withdrawals at age 55. And again, another one.
Yeah.
I think that flies under the radar.
Who's this apply to? It's anyone out there who recognizes, and again, we can't give advice to anybody individually over the airwaves here. Everyone's situation is different.
Yeah.
But anyone out there who says, you know what, this 401k is great, it's fine, it's working fine, but I've got pretty limited investment options in this thing.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had some more options. Well, all of a sudden now at age 55, or the different dynamics that Matt just listed off, you have the option to move some amount of money, as much as you want really, at that age into a different investment vehicle without having to pay taxes and penalties on that to invest it in a more diversified way, as a way to put it.
Yeah. And if that's you, if you're age 55, maybe you've separated from service, looking for a new employer, and you didn't know that you had access to that 401k, I would love to sit down and personally talk with you. You can reach out to us at retireatlradio.com, or you can call the office 770-741-0120. Again, that's another age that kind of flies under the radar, but we'd love to sit down and talk with you if that's you.
Yeah.
770-741-0120, as Matt just said. That's a very important number for you. But I want to go back to another milestone age that you just mentioned, 59 and a half. Now, before you get to the details of this, we hear that a lot. Why the half?
That's a great question.
It is
just
a
to
great
throw
question.
in the confusion, maybe, just to not make it easy.
So is there, I was really expecting like some deep, well, back in 1946 when they were putting together strategies, but 50, it's just the half.
Mark, you don't celebrate your 6 month and 1 day birthday?
I did when I was 10 years old. I celebrate my half birthday,
Right.
but now I don't.
I have no idea. Do you? I mean,
I actually don't know either. It's not something I've bothered to really look at, but it
No
is
idea.
59 and a half.
it is still and a half
Okay,
for
so
sure.
when you celebrate that 59 and a half birthday,
Yeah, that's right.
what can we expect there?
So that's when you're actually going to get unfettered, penalty-free access to anything that's in a qualified account. So that's SEP, Simple, 403B, TSP, IRA, 401k. Now, if you're still working for your employer at 59 and a half, there may be some squirrely rules there. But for the most part, 59 and a half, penalty-free access to all your retirement accounts.
You don't pay that because if you do it prior to that and prior to the 55 thing we just discussed, you're going to pay a 10% penalty on top of the taxes you pay to get money out of any of those accounts Matt just mentioned. But this age 59 and a half kind of alleviates at that ripe age of 59 and a half, those 10% penalties are no longer there.
I think it's interesting too, because that 59 and a half number, I think that actually hampers a lot of people out there from thinking about earlier retirement. Maybe you've done really well saving for retirement and you're, 54. Maybe you sell a company or, you have some kind of liquidity event or some kind of inheritance. We'll talk about other, non-age related milestones later on in the show, but that 59 and a half number, most people have the majority of their dollars in qualified accounts.
Yeah,
and so most people aren't even thinking about retirement before 59 and a half because they don't have any money that's not tied up in those qualified accounts. So 59 and a half probably.
It's a big one too for spouses. What we find is, people got their head down. They're working, they're saving, they're doing their job, they've raised their kids, life is happening. And maybe one spouse is a few or several years older than the other one, and they're at or near that age. Maybe they're 62 or 65, while the younger spouse is just turning 59 and a half. Well, he or she thinks they've got to keep going for a while because they don't want to pay the 10% penalty. Well, you've reached a threshold now where that's out the window. We got to talk if that's you.
Right. You can always reach out to the team at 770-741-0120 as we're talking about some of the milestone moments approaching retirement. We've covered the age of 50, 55, 59 and a half. And if you're just catching up to us here this weekend on Retire ATL, we always invite you to check out the podcast, Retire ATL, all powered by the Vincent Financial Group. You can find it across all podcast platforms. Okay, you celebrate that half-month birthday, 59 and a half. Well, then 6 months later, at the age of 60, now what?
Yeah, 60. Let's group the next two together.
Yep.
60 and 62,
Yep.
The next two big ages on the list. And they both tie into Social Security. You want to tell us what they are, Aaron?
Yeah. So at age 60, you can now qualify for spousal benefits, and you're eligible for
Survivor benefits.
Yeah, survivor benefits. So I don't want to belabor this one. There's a lot of if this, then that, and Social Security can be kind of cumbersome for folks. So again, if this is you, if you're at that age and you think maybe you have some questions on your Social Security or your spouse's Social Security, call us. Let's talk. There's some details there, but 60 is a big one because you have options that you didn't have before as far as Social Security is concerned. We'll leave it at that. And then 62 is a big one because now you've got the potential access to file for Social Security benefits.
Now you're filing early.
Yeah.
As most people know, that's not full retirement age, but that's the first available time where you can actually file for Social Security. You'll take a pretty big reduction in your Social Security check to file at 62. So if that's you, you should definitely sit down and talk with a professional. We would love to talk with you about filing early for Social Security. We can look at break-even points. We can look at how long you'd have to live for 62 to actually not work in your favor. You know, if you live too long and you file early, you actually lose that game. So definitely call us if that's you and you're considering early Social Security filing. Again, 770-741-0120. We'd love to chat with you about that and make sure that that's a good decision. But 62 earliest you can file.
So when would you recommend, because you've said it before, that it's better to wait for yourself as long as humanly possible. There are some situations where you need to start drawing on your Social Security benefits sooner than later. But if somebody came to you and they said, hey, I'm 62, I want to start now. If they don't have to, you kind of push them away from it. Is that safe to say?
This falls into the category of questions that I say there are two answers, and neither one of them is wrong or right. It's just your preference. And what I mean by that is this. There's the mathematical answer. There's the black and white, like just the truth, no emotions, no preferences, no past experiences, nothing. It's just what is better.
It's the math.
It's math.
Yeah.
And that applies, we get these questions like, when should I file for Social Security? Should I pay off my mortgage with this account balance, or should I just keep saving? All those kind of questions, there's two answers. One is the math, and that can answer it. Then there's also what we'll call the sleep at night factor. Look, it's your money.
Yeah.
And even if the math says X, but for the life of you, for as long as you can recall, you've wanted to file at 62. Or, look, it's been really important to you to pay off your mortgage sooner, whatever it might be. I would say that unless it's just an absolute bad decision, unless it's just wrong on many levels, we can talk about the tax ramifications.
Maybe your plan can't actually work.
Correct.
If you file at 62,
Right.
That would be a reason where we might push someone away from that kind of emotional based decision.
But short of some kind of like pretty much no brainer, there's a good case to be made for what do you want to do?
Yeah.
I mean, look, there is a right break even. If you're going to live to, let's just say, average life expectancy, early to mid 80s, then we can do a mathematical equation to say which one gets you more money.
Yeah, in
Filing
fact,
at 62 or 66 or 70.
If you make it to your mid 80s, almost everyone
should
wait until 70. That's kind of what the math would say. If you have longevity in your family, then you should probably wait from a math standpoint. But at the same time, we have so many people that come into the office with the attitude of, no, I'm going to stick it to the man and file at the earliest possible moment because I know that tomorrow they're going to take it away.
Or if I don't, I'm leaving money on the table.
I hear that a lot.
If I wait 8 years, I don't file at 62, I don't file at 66 and a half, I wait till 70, that 8-year difference there, I'm leaving all that money on the table.
But are you though?
Well, if you live to be in your mid 80s, you're not. You actually take more out if you wait till 70. But again, there's a mathematical equation. We can run it. Our planning software can help you do it. But to your question, Mark, there's not always a black and white answer that's obvious.
What you need to do is the thing that you're actually going to feel great about.
Yeah.
And so our job is not to tell you what to do. Our job is to show you how your decisions affect your retirement and then say, so here are the outcomes. Which one do you like? And some people decide to still file at 62. And if that's what they decide, hey, you're making that decision from a place of knowing the outcomes. Or some people say, oh, I see what you mean. I didn't realize that I only have to live to age 83. My parents are both still alive in their mid 90s. I didn't realize that filing till 70 was going to give me an extra, whatever, $100,000 of Social Security benefits over my lifetime. Okay, I get it. I'll wait.
Yeah.
But you just got to know the outcomes.
So, and I don't want to harp on the Social Security aspect of this all, but it's such an important part of everybody's retirement. And on the flip side, though, as you're working with somebody and somebody has the questions, when should I start drawing? I want to wait till I'm 70. I want to wait till I'm 72. Have you ever looked at somebody, put a plan together and said, no, the best opportunity for you is to draw earlier than you were prepared for. You may want to wait, but let's go ahead and start, let's shift it down a couple of years. Does that ever happen?
It can happen.
It can happen.
Yeah, I think where that primarily would happen is on the makeup of your other dollars. So, and what I'm talking about there is the tax status of your other dollars. So if all of your money is sitting in qualified accounts, well, you don't have any non-taxable dollars. And Social Security can provide you actually some non-taxable dollars if you don't have too much other income. So there may be planning reasons to take Social Security earlier, but it's probably going to depend on the makeup of your other assets. Would you have the same thing to say?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's almost a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And these are all questions that you can ask the team at the Vincent Financial Group when you schedule that no cost, no obligation consultation. It's called a retirement roadmap. It's like a GPS to help you navigate to and through retirement. And it's no cost, no obligation. You're not required to become a client. So you're listening this weekend, you're approaching 50, 55, 59 and a half, and you've just got questions about where do I stand in my retirement. Sit down with the team. You can ask these questions. 770-741-0120. Again, 770-741-0120. The main office of the Vincent Financial Group, downtown Woodstock, but of course, they can meet you via Zoom, the phone consultations as well, and you can get more when you visit retireatlradio.com. All right, next, as we're talking about the milestones as you approach retirement, the big age. We hear this age a lot. 65.
65. The golden age. The one
Medicare
everyone's shooting for.
eligibility.
Yep.
Yeah.
Medicare eligibility.
You finally don't have to purchase your, what is it, your healthcare.gov plan? Is that
Affordable
is that the
Care
site?
Act, whatever it's called. Yeah.
Yeah, you're finally on Medicare, which is actually great coverage.
It is.
Wonderful coverage. And most people, a lot of people wait to retire until 65 just so that they can actually get Medicare at the same time that they retire. But yeah, 65, everybody knows that age. That's where you need to file for your Medicare unless you're working still on your employer plan.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's exactly right. So it's a pretty simple one. It's a big one. This is some where this actually moves the needle for a lot of our clients. I mean, we just had people in recently who made the decision financially they could afford to retire. They were 63 or 64, I forget now, but decided to wait just because the idea of going and buying, like spending like $2,000 a month, I think it was,
just couldn't do it
on healthcare premiums. They had the money for it, but the thought of putting it, upwards of $25,000 a year towards some Medicare, or not Medicare, sorry, some independent, health insurance policy, they couldn't do it. So they decided to work till 65 just for this reason. So it's a big one.
Yep, definitely.
You hear that number a lot too with 65 because we talk about the, red zone of retirement.
Mm-hmm.
It was about 5 years out, maybe 5 years into. 65 usually really where that red zone starts.
Yeah. A lot of people are targeting age 65 for hanging up the boots.
And this is just, I think it kind of goes back to just to planning.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you've been working since your 20s toward this goal that culminates at age 65, then your savings plan and everything that goes along with that, all the decisions, how much to save and all those things kind of go into this age of 65. I would say if someone starts young enough, age 60 could be just as relevant as 65
Totally.
If you're saving and planning out. But the reality is most folks out there have this age 65 in their minds. I'm not even sure where it came from, honestly.
Same place 59 and a half.
Right. But it all just kind of comes back to that's the norm.
Yeah. 770-741-0120. We're going to have to break this up into a couple of different segments here this weekend to cover all these big milestone ages. But I do want to continue, celebrate 65, and then the age 66 and 67.
Mm-hmm.
There are some opportunities to be aware of when you celebrate those birthdays.
Yep,
right.
depending on when you're born.
Yep.
The year in which you were born, that's going to be your full retirement age. So 66 or 67 is going to be the point at which your Social Security benefit is at its maximum without delaying further. And so that is a huge age where a lot of people do end up filing for their Social Security benefit. What do they call it? A PIA?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of acronyms. FRA, full retirement age. That's at 66 and a half, 67. There's the PIA,
which is the number that you'll see on your Social Security statement as your monthly benefit at the FRA.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So yeah, 66, 67, huge age for Social Security and filing. But most people, when they see delaying until age 70, you start to get some huge pay raises on your Social Security benefit.
All right, well, let's hit pause right there.
Yeah. Let's do a little recap. So we hit 50, 55, 59 and a half.
Yep.
Then we got 60 and 62 for Social Security.
Yep.
65 for Medicare. Full retirement age, 66, 67. Now, me personally, I think this is the number one age. I think this is the biggest milestone age on this whole list
Drum roll, please.
70.
70. Age 70.
Yeah. For a few reasons, but I'm curious if you agree with me.
I think it is the biggest milestone of the under the radar ones. Obviously 62, 65, you could argue 59 and a half. Those are the ones everyone knows about.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the ones that, some people, hopefully your ears perked up like 70. Wasn't on my list. So yeah, I would agree with you.
I think 70 is the biggest from a planning perspective. For two reasons. Number one, 70 is where you're going to get your maximum Social Security benefit if you delay filing, from 62 on up until 70.
Your biggest checks.
That's going to give you your biggest check. And that moves the needle quite a bit for most people. It's a huge pay raise.
Big difference.
If you're comparing filing early at 62 to delaying to age 70, it's a huge difference
It'll
in your
likely
check.
be tens of thousands of dollars a year.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. But I also think that it's the biggest because of the age that comes next.
I was going to say the same thing. It sets up the next one.
Yeah. Yep.
You have time to make some decisions before you can't anymore.
This is the last age at which you can still kind of work your own plan.
Yep.
And we talk about if you don't have a plan for your money, somebody else does have a plan for your money.
Uncle
and
Sam.
That's Uncle Sam. That's the government. They got a plan for your money.
Guess whose plan works better for you?
My plan works better for me.
That's right.
That's
Uncle
right.
Sam's plan works better for
Uncle Sam.
Uncle
That's
Sam.
how it always works, isn't it? Yeah. So this age 70 is really kind of, you're getting it. We talk about the retirement red zone. This is like the forced taxation red zone.
Yeah. You've more than likely, we have a few clients in different, but you've pretty much done your savings.
Yep.
By 70, if you're not done with your savings and you're accumulating and you're planning, then you're close to it. You've done most of it if you're not already done. So you've got to the point where your pile of money is not going to get any bigger from you saving it. And now,
you've probably done most of your savings in what?
probably a 401k or an IRA.
Yeah,
Something
some kind of
tax-deferred.
tax-deferred vehicle.
Yeah.
And let's just recap.
Yeah.
That tax-deferred vehicle, 401k, IRA, SEP, Simple, 403b, TSP. There's all kinds of them. That's not even annuities. That's not an exhaustive list, but that's a big list there for you. Is all that money yours, Aaron?
It is absolutely not all yours.
What are you talking about?
Well,
That's my hard-earned money in there.
it's your hard-earned money, but it's not all yours. It's because you haven't paid taxes yet.
Right.
You're never going to get away from paying taxes. Now, with some planning, and this is kind of the setup, with some planning, the goal is to pay as little tax as possible.
Right.
But it's not all yours. If you got $1 million 401k, guess what? You do not have $1 million.
No.
You just don't.
You certainly don't. Yeah, so age 70, you're looking at your qualified accounts, 401k, SEP, Simple, IRA, 403b. You're looking at your qualified accounts. That's not all your money.
Mm-hmm.
And at age 73,
73 is the next one.
73 is the next age.
Still not my money?
It's still not your money.
When do I get my money?
But
Now
guess what
comes-
starts at 73?
What?
Let's say at the same time. 3,
Forced-
2,
oh.
1. Forced taxation.
I jumped the gun.
Harmonized.
Forced
Oh.
taxation.
We're
I
not
mean,
good
what-
at harmonies.
I know. What a statement. What a title.
Forced
taxation.
taxation.
Now you may have heard of this in a different term.
Yeah. You may have heard RMDs.
Okay,
Required
yes.
minimum distribution, also known as forced taxation.
That's right.
Matt's a big fan of RMDs. Matt is a huge fan.
I'm not a fan of RMDs.
I'm
I don't know
kidding.
why
If
you're
you
putting
go
that
back-
on me.
if
Don't
you
put
go-
that on me.
If you go back to the archives, go back to about 2 episodes ago
Matt
and
gets
the
heated.
Retire ATL podcast.
Don't put that on me.
You can hear Matt just go off
Rant.
on RMDs. Not a fan at all, but for good reason. Some good information there as well. All right, so 70, 73, forced taxation, RMDs. What can we do to help mitigate some of the tax liabilities?
Let's take a little bit of time on this.
Yeah, I think we
Tying 70 and 73 together. At age 70, of course, you get your maximum Social Security benefit if you delay, and you've got 3 years to start creating your own plan for your money.
Hopefully you've done it before this.
Yeah,
But if you
hopefully you have.
haven't, now it's critical.
Now you're in the forced taxation red zone because at age 73, the government, Uncle Sam, they're going to start requiring you to draw down on all of your qualified accounts.
Now, what if you don't? What if they require it and you're like, no, I'm not doing that?
Well, there's nothing wrong with that, right?
Right. What does that mean, though? What happens to me if I don't do
Well, I assume nothing happens because it's my money,
it?
right?
Right. But that's not true, though.
Oh, it's not.
What
There's
actually
going to be a
happens?
knock at the door.
Penalty time.
Yeah, huge penalties.
Not an
Penalties
option.
on top of taxation.
Okay.
So you can't sit there and not comply with forced taxation. That's why it's called forced taxation, because there's no such thing as not complying without severe pain and penalty.
Now, the government will famously forget a lot of things. What they will not forget is forced taxation.
That's
fees.
correct.
They will
Your
not
money.
forget that you turned 73.
They will not.
I promise you
Nope.
that.
They'll
So
celebrate your birthday harder
Oh,
than you
yeah.
will.
They
Oh, yeah.
will. They do for the rest of your life.
Yeah,
They
they
celebrate
celebrate
your
it
birthday
hard.
harder than you do. So 70 to 73 is the window where you have time still to get your money in the right order, get your money in the right buckets. There's different types of buckets. There's tax deferred monies. That's all your qualified accounts, the accounts we're talking about where there's forced taxation. There's taxable accounts. That's like a brokerage account where you get 1099s every single year. CDs,
money markets, all
money
that.
markets.
Anything you get taxed on that year.
Yep, 1099s. And then there's tax-free dollars. There's accounts where you don't actually have to pay taxes on that money anymore. It's over the tax fence. That would be like a Roth IRA, municipal bond income, cash value life insurance can be considered a tax-free vehicle there if you do it right. And so
there is a mathematical correct ratio. Now, everyone's is different. It's not like a one size fits all, but there is a correct number of how much money should I have in my first bucket,
Yep.
second bucket, third bucket. There is a correct number to make this forced taxation as little as possible. That's where you're heading to.
Yep. And so a lot of times the way that we get the money into the right buckets is through things like Roth conversions. And the reason that this 70 to 73 age range is so important is because once you get to required minimum distributions, once you get to forced taxation, a Roth conversion does not satisfy your forced taxation for that year.
Right.
Before that, if you do a Roth conversion before age 73, that money has been moved over the tax fence. It's now no longer subject to forced taxation because you've paid the tax on it on your own terms. If you wait until 73 to start getting your dollars, your money, into the right tax buckets in order to try and pay as little in tax as possible, you've really hamstrung yourself because all of your Roth conversions that you're doing past age 73 are not going to satisfy your RMDs, which now means you're definitely going to be paying more in tax than you needed to pay. And that's why age 70 for me, is kind of like that forced taxation red zone, probably the number one age on the list because it does go under the radar. People don't know you got a 3-year window to get things right. Otherwise, you've made it a lot harder on yourself to get your money into the right buckets.
And if you're talking to a financial advisor, look, there's a lot of good ones out there. I'm not in any way going to try to paint the wrong picture, but if you're talking to a financial advisor and you're serious about retirement, like you're getting close, maybe you're in that late 50s, early 60s range, and if you're already not talking about tightening the screws on your Roth conversion plan, don't wait till 70 is my point.
Yeah. No.
If you're waiting till 70, you're making it stressful for yourself, and you're going to try to compress what could be done over 10 or 15 years into 3 years to avoid this forced taxation. It's better than waiting until 73. But if your advisor isn't already bringing this up, call us 770-741-0120. We
We'd
would
love to talk to you.
discuss this stuff with you.
Gosh.
Yeah, and they get. I mean, I know this is going to sound weird, but they get excited talking about this because look about when we were talking about the age of 70. Matt got excited. He's like, "Oh, there's so many opportunities here. There's so much information that people need to know on some of these big milestone birthdays."
And it's because we hear so often, I wish someone told me this.
Yeah.
Gosh, I wish I'd have known this 2 years ago.
And we see how much the needle can move.
Yeah.
I mean, we get to see day in and day out how some of the planning recommendations that we make, clients come into our office, there's so much that they don't know. And then we get to show them, hey, here's what your roadmap looks like if we do it, this way. Option A, option B, option C, and they get to see things like total taxes paid over their whole retirement. It could be well into the 6-figure range. I mean, it could be $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 difference. That is us seeing the needle move, and that's when we get excited because nobody likes to pay a financial advisor a fee to call you once a year and say, hey, is everything good? Okay, good. Glad everything's good.
Yeah.
Goodbye. I'll talk to you next year. Like, what are you paying a fee for at that point? But when we get to have these types of planning conversations, we get to feel like, man, our clients we are moving the needle for our clients, and we feel great about the services we provide and the value that we provide. And that's when it gets fun for us.
And a lot of times it's like recently widows, they oftentimes with this generation, oftentimes the husband is he did the majority of the saving, he did the majority of the earning, and he's the one talking to his financial advisor, that's often the case. But if that's the case in your situation, and all of a sudden now your husband passes away or whatever happens, we help widows with this all the time. It really helps me, or really is a fun day for me to take someone who's experiencing a lot of stress, a lot of worry, a lot of overwhelmed feelings, because these decisions are big decisions, and to break it down into simple terms like this. I mean, it's why we do what we do.
How often do you have somebody comes in and they think they've got a good grasp on their tax situation? Because it's like something we say a lot. You may not have a health problem, you may not have a wealth problem, but everybody has a tax problem. Mm-hmm. So somebody comes and they says, "Oh, Matt, Aaron, I'm doing pretty good. I'm a DIY tax strategy. I'm feeling pretty solid. So let's take a look at this and this and this." And then you do a deep dive in their portfolio, especially their taxes, and you go, "Oh, buddy, we got some work to do."
Yeah.
Does that happen a lot?
All the time.
Yeah.
I mean, we say this a lot on this show, but a lot of folks don't know it. I would be willing to bet, for the vast majority of folks listening, your biggest expense in retirement won't be travel. It won't be golf. It won't be healthcare. It won't be your grandkids.
It won't even be long-term care.
It won't even be long-term care.
Will it be a bucket list trip to Montana?
No, definitely not.
Or Wyoming?
What it will be is taxes.
Mm-hmm.
That your biggest expense in retirement will be taxes. And to wait, until it's too late to begin to mitigate that reality, that's what the DIYers are saying. I'm getting good returns.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Great. I hope you are. But good returns don't make up for a bad tax plan. It just can't.
It honestly can't. Our goal is to make taxes not the biggest expense in your retirement. Mm-hmm. But if we wait until 73, it's hard. Yeah. It's now hard to make that happen.
We talked about the home office of the Vincent Financial Group, downtown Woodstock. Beautiful office. It's on the ground floor. You can pull up and park, and you're inside the front door within about 10 steps. So you don't have to worry about going to a big office building in downtown Atlanta and valet, or get your park in, have to pay to park and go up 18 floors. Nope, they're in the heart of downtown Woodstock. But there are opportunities to meet the team from the Vincent Financial Group. If you can't make it to downtown Woodstock, you can come meet you at another location or Zoom as well, Vincent. Aaron.
Yeah, I mean, so we have different locations we can meet at. That's definitely an option. But most folks, honestly, because of Atlanta traffic and just the convenience factor, and I think after COVID, Zoom became much more convenient. It was kind of forced on us all, but it became much more user-friendly, and everybody was more comfortable with that. So most of our initial consultations, this initial intro conversation, is done over Zoom. We have no problem with that.
You can reach out to the team at 770-741-0120. Again, 770-741-0120 to take advantage of that no-cost, no-obligation retirement map from the team at the Vincent Financial Group. And real quick, Matt, before we get out of here, got about a minute left here. That initial consultation, either we come to see you, shake your hand in person, we do it via Zoom. How much time should we plan out for? What should we expect?
Yeah, I would expect no more than an hour. Definitely leave your wallet in your car. Bring it with you in case you get pulled over by our fine police officers, but definitely don't bring it into the office. We're going to just sit down and talk with you. We're going to figure out what makes you tick. What's important to you? What are your goals? Why are you here? What is it that you're worried about? What is it that you're hoping to overcome or maybe get clarity on? It's going to be a lot of us asking a few questions and then kind of shutting up and listening to hear you tell your story.
It all starts with a phone call. 770-741-0120. We're always available at retireatlradio.com. Aaron, Vincent, Matthew Decker, thank you. Thank you for the education and the information this weekend. Again, we invite y'all to check out the Retire ATL podcast if you missed anything on this weekend show about the milestone birthdays as you approach retirement. Just put a search on it, Retire ATL, wherever you find your favorite shows.